What is really the definition of consciousness? It's often said to be synonymous with awareness, sentience, or rather objectivity. But none of these are truly the real definition of consciousness, they are replacements of the same word. In Thomas Nagel's essay, he asks what is it like to be a bat? In this case, he's referring to the consciousness, what it feels like, of a bat. And as humans, we can hardly really comprehend it. Throughout our lives, we feel as if we're conscious beings. We wake up in the morning and start living. Our bodies move about, our hearts beat, and we interact with other humans in nature. Evolutionarily, how does consciousness play into all of this? Consciousness is an epiphenomenon, a byproduct of the massive amounts of processing our brains do. Much like the smoke coming off of an old-fashioned steam engine, consciousness is part of the machinery, not the machinery itself. Consciousness is an intangible, immaterial aspect of human life. Therefore, it makes sense to ascribe consciousness to all of humanity. But can we argue with any certainty that, say, a fruit fly is conscious? Scientists have major disagreements on this point. Neuroscientist Seth feels it's inarguable that, at the very least, all mammals have conscious experiences. After all, we share much of the same neuroanatomy and neurophysiology. Language might be a big component of the conscious experience for humans, but it isn't the necessary basis for consciousness. The idea that consciousness might be everywhere is an enchanting prospect. It's just not one that can be considered anything other than a what if. Until we have more evidence. Well, we already have. Scientists at the University of Milan have developed a new way to measure consciousness in a patient. In a recent paper, they've created a way to predict whether a patient is awake or asleep by measuring the pattern of brainwave activity. A technique, called perturbational complexity index, uses mathematical modeling to produce a number that predicts whether someone is aware or unconscious. If we create artificial intelligence, the next step would be to consider whether or not they are conscious, and whether or not they deserve rights. Neuroscientists such as Seth believe that we could one day treat AI as we do other people, and this movement is supported by historical precedent. We now extend ethical concern to non-human animals, which we didn't do in the past. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we could end up like in Westworld, in which humans treat artificially intelligent robots with utter disregard. How often do you daydream? 1 in 5. Or is it half your day? Additionally, researchers have done a lot of studies about daydreaming, and most of us lose track of time thinking about something else. In fact, we're not in control for 2/3 of our conscious lifetime. Neuroscientist Thomas Nagel proposes a theory called the self-model theory of subjectivity. He argues that you do not have a self as such, but rather a persistent self-model in your brain with which you identify. According to Metzinger, our brains are constantly picking up on information from our surroundings. Our visually dominated mind has the power to see more than what's right in front of us. It can interpret an object for whatever use we might have for it. This DMN plus network is what helps us make decisions about what we see, and it's constantly making these interpretations based on our environments.